Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808. And today we have on a rapper who's been called the Cure, uncut, raw, pure, that's for sure. A creative writer who scribes words more to make your day brighter, and raps to make change while you're simply rapping for the change. His dope shit find dope ears, and if you ain't dope, don't shed tears. We've a man who's up with the roosters while your life needs produced. Just remember he won't be Medusa'd. All the respect is accumulated. You can times that by 10 and it's still understated. It's the world's greatest who'll run up on your IP address and give you a facelift. The chill type of fellow who likes to play the cut, observe and be mellow. Yes, he's been rocking motherfuckers since freshman year. We've got rapper Big Pooh in the house. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. That was like a trip down memory lane, man. I was catching all the little all the song joints in there.
Mate, I screwed it up a little bit, but I have to say your history is so large. I had so much to pick from, and I picked the ones I want to really trip over. I love that.
Hey, man, nah, I love it, man. That was pretty cool.
Well, man,
cool.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's been a minute. We've wanted you guys on, well, wanted the little brother on, but especially yourself, man, because we got to talk about some of them solo albums you've been dropping. You dropped back in the day, and you've been dropping consistently, bro. But before we do, I've got to ask you what I ask everyone who comes on. Pooh, man, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
The least hip-hop thing I've done?
Yeah, the least hip-hop thing.
Went to the grocery store.
Okay.
Did some grocery shopping. That was probably the least hip hop thing I've done in the last 24 hours.
I like it, man. How was the shopping trip with the pandemic and everything? How is it around your end with all that?
It's cool now. I mean, people outside, like, it's not a pandemic in parts of the city. So, okay. But nah, it's been cool. The first couple of months it was a little hectic. They were out of certain things. Toilet paper. It was a short toilet paper shortage around the world apparently.
Yes,
but now, I mean, it's pretty standard now. I mean, the only difference is obviously the mask, and I try to go at hours where there's not a lot of people. But I tended to do that anyway. I used to live by a 24-hour grocery store, so I would always go in and shop around like 2-3 in the morning. When nobody was really in there. So I try to go not during heavy hours, like right before they close or right when they open. That's when I try to get in there.
I like it, man. I like it. MJ style. Jacko was closing. Are you closing down supermarkets to go shopping? Are you at that level yet, Pooh? No, you're not that level yet?
No, I ain't that level. I ain't closing down nobody. I ain't buying that many groceries.
Oh, I love it, man. Well, Pooh, man, when you were coming on, I was going through like all my favourite records of yourself, and I didn't really know where to start. There was so much. I was like, wow, okay. So I just thought, you know what? I know you've probably told this story a million times, but for me, could you tell me really the start for yourself, which was like hip hop, obviously, why you got into hip hop and what was it about this culture of music that you got that you didn't find anywhere else, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, music always spoke to me. Ever since I was little, I loved music. Listened to mostly R&B and of course hip hop. My brother really brought hip hop into the house. With stuff he was listening to. My brother is 3 years older than me, so okay. he would bring in music. But the real big start for me happened, I mean, besides radio, was here in the US, we had this thing, it was called BMG Music Services. And you could, they would do this little deal where you would get like 10 CDs for $1 or something like that. But you were promising to buy more things from the service.
Right.
We would never buy more things from the service. We would just keep changing information, getting more CDs.
Yeah. And
that's when I really started discovering a lot of different hip hop. And I had a friend, I know everybody says this if you're not from New York, but I had a friend that was actually from New York. And and he would come when he would go back to New York and come back, he would bring, that's how I heard Biggie's Who Shot Ya. That's how I heard Nas for the first time. That's how I heard Wu-Tang for the first time. So he would he was bringing in different music from New York of that era. And he would bring it back and let me peep it. And so I was always interested in writing, creative writing.
Okay.
And I used to write stories, short stories, poems, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I just, one day when I heard Illmatic, it changed me. Like that was the thing that was the album where I heard Nas tell stories in song form in that way that made me say, yo, I want to do that. Yeah. And from that day forward, I started my hand at trying to write songs. Like I didn't always write raps. Like I would write R&B songs. I would try my hand at writing any type of song, but it was Illmatic was the thing that set it off for me.
Damn, wow. So, you know, you've got all this like New York influence, your friends bringing it over. When you're going to school and that, was there like any cliques that were into that same music, or were you kind of on your own? Like, I always want to gauge it really.
Nah, I mean, we had people that were into all types of music. You know, and I was riding around with people who, one of my good friends at the time, Lamar, like we used to go to school, like he'd pick me up or whatever. We'd take me home from school, or we'd skip school together and ride around. But like he's a big music fan, so he introduced me to different types of music. So I was with people that, you know, even if we all didn't like the same thing, there was something that we could agree upon, and we would, you know, that was the thing we listened to when I was with this section of friends versus when I'm with this section of friends. This is what we listened to. Like I had a friend back in high school. All he really listened to was R&B music. And that's how I ended up getting introduced to a lot of different R&B music, because whether he was riding in his car, he didn't care. In the house, whatever, R&B music was his thing. So, I just had friends that they all listened to different things. And when I was with them, it was that thing. And then when I went to another one, it was something else. So,
oh, wow. So you're writing these rhymes, you've got your creative writing on the go. Tell me, like, where did you find like for want of a better word, courage, I suppose, to feel like, I could probably do this in front of people, you know, like that first time where you were like, actually, I want to spit this little rhyme or whatever. Do you remember that being a thing, or was it very seamless for you?
Nah, that was a thing for me, man. I had severe stage fright. Well, I don't want to say severe. I just had stage fright. I even to this day, like it's tougher for me to talk in front of 25 people than it is 25,000. You know what I mean? Like, okay. It's weird. Like that intimate setting can throw me all the way off. And now it's to the point where if I don't have a certain level of nervousness before a performance or before I have to speak to a class or whatever it is I'm doing, I know something is off. Now it's part of my routine. You know what I mean? But or part of my process, not my routine necessarily, but my process. But the first time I can remember the first time where it really hit me when I was up there, quote unquote, by myself was in college, my freshman year of college. Right. We in the student union, it was a band playing, and they would just play, you know, different things for people who would come up and recite poems. Yeah. And so I happened to be there. I'm down in North Carolina. I don't know anybody really. And I just go to this thing and it's a whole bunch of girls in there. And I remember a rhyme I had wrote. Right. And I asked the band, I never forget, I asked the band, can they play Crush on You by Lil' Kim? And they played it, and I recited this rhyme I had wrote. And I just remember I was nervous as hell, but it was, I'm in college. I don't really know anybody, and it's all these girls in here. I got to go up here and do something. So I went up there and I kicked it, and I just remember that feeling, you know, the fright before, but just feeling, you know, the adrenaline rush that happened after, and how people were coming up to me like, yo, that was dope. That was crazy. Like, who are you? What is this? Like, we did, you know, and that feeling, like I couldn't get over that feeling, you know what I mean? Like that feeling just lasted for a long time for me. But that was like really the first time I really stepped out and attempted, you know, to do something, and it went well for me. I think if that time would have went bad, you probably wouldn't be talking to me right now.
Oh man. Oh wow.
But that to have the courage to step out and do that, was big for me. And that was just like the first step. It was the first step in the process for me.
Wow, beautiful, man. That's, again, I can't imagine what that's like. It just must feel like an adrenaline rush. It's amazing. And the fact that it's for the loads of girls as well. Amazing, man. Did you then at that time have the name rapper Big Pooh, or did you have something else? Was there another MC name you were going by or something before that?
Nah, I really never had an MC name. That's the funny thing. Like, I never really had one. And I got the name Pooh. It was Pooh Bear. That was my nickname. And it was from somebody I knew. I met in college. My friend Rashawn Rucker, we called him Big Ruck.
Right.
He later on went on to be editor in Detroit Free Press. Great photographer, artist. But he gave me the name. He used to always say, man, I used to hang with a lot of older guys at school. Like, they was 2-3 years older than me.
Okay.
And he will always say, man, anybody ever told you look like a Winnie the Pooh? Like, you're like a brown version of Winnie the Pooh. And he used to always say that. And he used to draw like little Winnie the Pooh logos for me and everything. And that's how I ended up getting the name Pooh Bear. And then it went from Pooh Bear to Pooh to Big Pooh. And then to rapper Big Pooh, the evolution.
I see.
Yeah.
So you weren't in the notepad like scratching different like names or monikers, nothing like that. Nah. Oh wow.
Nah, that was part of the problem. Like, well, part of the issue for me when we finally formed Little Brother, and I was trying my hardest to think of anything but to call myself Big Pooh, right? Like, I was trying to think of, even though that's what everybody called me. Like, so I have a group of people who only know me as Pooh. And then obviously the people before college only know me as Thomas, my government name.
Yeah.
Like, I never had a nickname up until that point.
No, what in your life? Just generally, like,
nope.
Nothing from
no
your mum
nickname.
or nothing like that? Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
It's always a derivative of my name. So it's Thomas, Tom, Tommy J. Like, it's a derivative of my name. But that was the first time I had a nickname outside of my name. And that was just the name people were so accustomed to calling me. Yeah. That I was just like trying to find another name, and then make that switch at this point is just pointless. Like, I don't want 3 different sets of people calling me 3 different names. Like, that's confusing to me. So I ended up going with Pooh, since that's what everybody called me anyway.
Oh, nice, man. Nice. Because I know obviously with Little Brother and you met in college and stuff like that, right? And before we really get into the big Little Brother chat, I was thinking, like, at that time, because you're at college, so really you've kind of got an idea about a career, I would have thought at that point, or like, something that you are trying to work towards. Like, your family sit down and you all think, right, we're going to go, higher education. What are you going to do? What did they say? What did they say when you said, actually, I might just do rapping? What was the conversation?
Man, my mom, I mean, it was a little different because my mom wasn't really paying for me to go to school. Okay. A deacon from my church at the time, he had went to the school. Like, I ended up at a school I wasn't even originally slated to be at. Like, I had went to an orientation, got my ID, picked classes, planned on staying with my uncle for a year. I was going to Old Dominion in Virginia, and a deacon from my church had asked me, did I have any scholarships? And I was like, nah, I don't even have housing. Like, I'm staying with my uncle, and I'm just going to school down the street from his house. Yeah. And he's like, what if I told you I can get you a scholarship? You can go to school for free. And I was like, I'm listening. And so he talked to another deacon at my church, the first person I ever went to their house, and it was $1 million house. And he had a waste chemical company that he contracted out to the government and the different other places. So he went to North Carolina Central, and he was cool with people that worked in the office, the front office there. And he actually had a scholarship that he had there. Ended up doing the paperwork. Now, all this happened within like a week and a half. Okay. And I just did it And then I told my mom, like, yeah, Ma, I changed my mind. I'm not going to live with your brother. I'm not going to school there. I'm going to school in North Carolina, to a school I'd never been to before, to a school I never heard of before.
Jeez.
I just knew that somebody said you can go to school for free. That's all I knew.
It's big, yeah.
Yeah. And so she was like, well, you know, you're 18 now. You're grown. You can make your own decision.
Okay.
So within a week and a half, I did the application. I got accepted. Got put on scholarship because school was like $6,000 a semester at the time for me because I was out of state.
Yeah.
And went down there. I didn't even have a dorm because I got to school a week after school started.
Oh, right.
And our school was in the middle of building new residence halls and they hadn't finished in time. So they had kids staying at various hotels around the school. Damn. And I ended up, and it was supposed to be for upperclassmen, obviously. You know, freshmen should be on campus.
For sure.
I ended up, because I was late, I ended up in the hotel, in the Marriott, for like almost a whole semester with an upperclassman, like with a senior.
Jeez. You got to be loving the life, right?
So I'm in the Marriott, and I was, but I wasn't. So I ended up having to spend all the money I made that summer on food because I didn't have a food plan. Absolutely. Because I didn't have, you know, the dorm. Yeah. And I was the only one out of all the kids that was staying in the hotel that couldn't eat in the cafeteria. Yeah. So I was eating McDonald's. Yeah. Because there was a McDonald's right across the street. I was eating hotel food. Yeah. Like fries and all type of stuff. But so when I went to school, the idea was for me to become a teacher. Okay. Like that's something I had always wanted to do. I wanted to teach. And, you know, so I started off as an English major, then I went into a history major and secondary education. And so even when I told my mom I was doing music, she was like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So when you graduate, like, what are you doing again? You want to be what again? So when are you graduating? And I was like, Mom, you don't get it. Like, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. This is it for me. And it didn't become real to her until she started seeing me, like without me sending it to her, but started seeing me in magazines or hearing about me in magazines or seeing me on TV or whatever. Like it wasn't until that point. Now, mind you, this took a while for her. Yeah. Like, we were well into our Atlantic deal. Oh, wow. By the time she realized, like, oh, this is a real thing. Like, this just isn't a hobby. Yeah. So that was that was almost 3 years before she really realized, okay, this is his career now. Yeah. And you know, but I once again, I was grown, and it wasn't like, you know, even when I found out that the scholarship I was on was like a biology scholarship or something in science. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't doing that. So they gave me the scholarship for 2 years. And then after 2 years, I had to go on financial aid. But that was loans I took out for myself. Like my mom didn't take them loans out. So it was nothing she could really say at that point. You know, It was just like, I wish you would go finish school. I wish you would go get a 9-to-5. But I support you as long as you're doing something that's honest. Yeah. And that's what it turned into. Because
I must think, right, for every Pooh, for every little brother, there must be like 10 different groups who never make it, right? Like who are at college or uni here or whatever, and they try and they get on the grind. So, man, props for, like, you know, just persevering, bro. I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We ran with some guys in college who never ended up making it, and you know, and I thought they were going to make it. Like, okay, if anybody's going to make it, it's going to be y'all, and it ended up being us. Yeah. So
it's like sports at school, isn't it? When you're playing sports, and like, well, I'm sure with you guys as well, it's like there's one guy or one girl where you're like, yeah, they're definitely the best, and then in 5 years' time, the kid who wasn't very good is like now amazing, and you're like, wow, it's man, it's a trip. Yo, yo, yo. Just interrupting this episode to give you a quick update on our plans for 2021. But before I do, just remember to subscribe on YouTube and like this video. Also, get involved in the comments. We always have some dope takes on there. So shout out to people that are getting involved. We love reading them. And hopefully some more of you guys can get on there and we'll shout you out on the episodes coming up. Now, on to 2021. We here at Crate 808 are setting up a Patreon where for the price of a pint or a coffee every month, we'll be bringing you even more dope hip-hop episodes. Simply go to crate808.com, subscribe to the newsletter, you'll get all the updates on our plans, but as a taster, each month we're thinking of bringing you 90s rap hidden gem album reviews that you can vote for. So if you enjoy people like Master Ace, Diamond D, The Lynch Mob, Paris, Big Noid, Blase, we'll be doing a lot more of those. We're going to do our Why I Love series, the MF Doom and J Dilla editions. Each month we'll bring on a guest and dig into why they love a certain Doom or JD track and then test that love. How deep is that love? So expect some nostalgia right there. Next up, Wu-Tang Chronicles Ghostface Killer Edition. We're aiming here, I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but we're aiming to go through every solo Wu project and we're going to start with Ghostface catalogue. So we're going to go in, we're going to talk about the music, we're going to talk about the fashion sense and just some of the amazing bars he's dropped in that career. So you can expect that as well. And then for every patron who comes on, get your name on the credits, the Crate 808 credits, and in our Hall of Fame. So that'll be, I don't know how that's going to look right now, but we're going to give each of you a little bit of shine and a shout out on the show. And the Griselda Marathon, I want to do it. If we get enough patrons, we're going to do it. We're going to go through every single Griselda project and really let's dive in, yeah? So get involved. Hit up crate808.com, subscribe to the newsletter, as well as the YouTube and the podcast. Now, back to the episode. I do want to talk about Little Brother. I do want to talk about how you guys formed and all that stuff. But I really, really wanted to start with you because Little Brother I'd listened to as growing up, and it had me tapped in to like hip hop when I was kind of veering away from hip hop a little bit because it wasn't what I was used to. So it was people like Doom, people like that I was really still listening to, and I was really still into Madlib, people like that. And then I remember Sleepers, man, and that I got into more than Little Brother at the time, and then I kind of really got into the listening, really got into the minstrel show. But it was Sleepers, man, and I was like, I remember putting that up for the first time. Thank you for that, because it genuinely woke me up, that intro. Wake up. It was like, oh, I am now awake. This is great. And there were other people, doing really good music at that time. And Sleepers, I always wanted to ask you really about that album. I know for me it holds a special place, but for you, how do you feel about that record? Like looking back on it all these years after, man.
I mean, that's my baby. It will always be, hold a special place in my heart for what it represented for me. For me, it represented confidence. Yeah. It represented being secure in what I was doing. Because up until that point, like, my confidence was like, if confidence on a scale of 1 to 100, my confidence was probably at a 50, Damn. And it was just, I was being carried. Like, let's just be frank. Like, I was being carried up until that point. And I was always working. I was always recording. I was always trying to, be better. So I was working on my craft. And that was the point where it finally clicked for me. And, and I always say this, I give props to Khrysis. Like, it's me on the cover, it's my name, but that was our debut album. Like, he sat in the studio with me, because even at that time, people weren't really, in the crew, everything was about ninth, even though we had other producers in the crew. Everybody wanted Ninth Wonder beats, obviously. Khrysis sat in there with me, whether it was his beats or not, and really just got into it with me. Like, we really it was just us for the most part. And so that was the album that really showed me I can do this. And that I'm good at this. Because, I tell people all the time, like, I was getting trolled on the internet before trolling was a thing on the internet. Like, people were, after the listening, people loved the album. They said all kind of great things. But then there was this corner, this is this section of people who would, man, I like Phonte and I love Knife Beats, but this other guy, I don't know about this other guy.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know how to take that. When your confidence isn't high, you don't know how to take that. Like, you want to, crouch into a corner and ball up and cry. But, I took it as a sign that, the people I was with, Phonte, Knife, and the people in Justice League, they weren't saying those things, at least to my knowledge, and we were still making music together. So I felt, hey, they must think I'm okay. And I really started to come into my own at that point. And that's what that album represents for me more than anything. And it springboarded me into what came after that, Chitlin Circuit, 1.5, The Minstrel Show, and so forth and so on. But I was working on Sleepers, Minstrel Show, like pretty much simultaneously.
Oh.
Yeah. I was working on both of them together. So I was bouncing back and forth between what I was working on. And that just gave me supreme confidence in being able to, knowing I could do this, and I in fact was good, and I was just getting better. So that's what that album always represents to me.
Yeah, because it is a craft, right? Like, you see growth in all great artists. Like, people, okay, we talked about Illmatic. Nas's first album is a stone cold classic. Of course it is. But do look at the people who were on there with him and the people who were guiding him. He's obviously a phenom, but what I'm saying is, like, of course it's a classic, but a majority of artists I listen to, they grow, man, over time. Like, everyone tends to get better as they go, right?
Definitely.
And confident. And like in that space when you're rhyming, like when I then listen to your new album, 2019, Little Brother album, you're just riding that. You're in the zone, if you know what I mean. And that I feel there is a definite growth of yourself as you go on. I want to talk about like the subjects you talk about, the subjects you're more confident talking about, because some of these earlier albums you guys did together, I don't think are as deep as the stuff you've brought out later in life, where I'm like, wow, this is probably going to last the test of time. Unfortunately, for certain subjects you guys talk about haven't changed, and we'll dive into those. But like, yeah, no, I just wanted to say I appreciate you being honest like that, because confidence is a real thing, man. And I appreciate you bringing that.
Thank you, man.
No, absolutely. That must feel amazing. I just want to talk about Sleepers as a project when you were doing it, you guys. Little things like the snippets, the movie snippets that were in there. Like, I remember that time, because I like films and stuff, and Insomnia was a film I watched, and I was like, why is it called Sleepers? Why are they using bits from this film which is about lack of sleep? Like, what were you going through that time that was about the title?
For me, Sleepers was actually about people sleeping on me.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That's what it was. It was like people were sleeping on me. So that's why it starts with the wake up. And I come out real aggressive, in the beginning.
100%.
And that's what it was about for me. It was just about letting people know that I was here to stay. And, the movie snippets and those things, those came at the end. And those were introduced by, Big Doe and Knife. Like, they came in really at the end of the project to help put it together, because I created the songs. Yeah, me and Khrysis created the songs, but I didn't know how to sequence. I didn't know how to connect everything. So those were the things I was shaky on at the time. Yeah. So they came in. They was like, "Hey, man, you got to have things to transition and make sure stuff connect." And so they had the movie idea, but the whole album was, I'm telling my story within the album, but the whole album was about me gaining that confidence and saying, y'all gonna stop sleeping on me. I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. And also introducing people to who I am sound wise. So now I didn't go that far out the box because I was using the same guys, but me and Phonte as little brother, we always had to compromise a little of who we were as artists to make, to get what we got as little brother. And so for me, like, I don't go heavy on the singing. I don't go, my tracks have a little bit more edge to it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to represent that part of who I was, as opposed to within Little Brother. And I mean, it's still that way today, as opposed to within Little Brother, we have to complement each other as opposed to fighting over, whose sound is going to be dominant.
Absolutely,
so that's kind of, my thought process as I was doing different records for Sleepers and just having fun. You know what I mean? Like, I was enjoying creating. I look at myself, I looked at what I was doing as, even still to this day, it's like an athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every summer, an athlete. So if we talking basketball, every summer an athlete goes away for the off season and hopefully works on their game. Yeah. So when they come back the next season, they come back with something different. So last year, I just drove to the basket. This year, I have a post-up game. Then I add a jumper. Then I add better hand. You know what I'm saying? So you come back and you add, and that's kind of what I was doing. I would record things. I was recording at an insane pace at that time.
Yeah.
And I would just record, listen, and try to figure out, okay, what can I improve on? What can I become better at? And I was using like recordings as quote unquote game film. I would go listen, and I was listening to figure out where my weak points were.
Yeah.
And that's something I've always done. I've continued throughout my career. But so I was just having fun. I was, that's how Darian Brockington ended up coming into the fold. Like, we all knew him from school.
Yeah.
But I ended up running into him at the bank.
Oh.
Like, he worked at the bank around the corner from my house, my apartment.
Yeah.
And I went in there to, deposit a check or cash a check, something. And he ended up being my teller. And I was like, oh, what's up, man? He was like, yo, what's going on? And I was like, yo, you still singing? He was like, yeah. I was like, man, I'm working on this record. Pull up to the crib. Yeah. And he got off work like one day later that week and came around the corner to my house, and we worked on, I can't remember the title of the song, I'm having the brain fart, but the song he's on that album.
Yeah.
He came over to my house, to my apartment. One of my roommates is Dash, who's on that song. Came over. We sat in my room in the apartment. Yeah. I had the stereo and wrote the record right there on the spot. And so I was just having a lot of fun, just creating and working on records and being free, like with the listening. I was just saying my rhymes and I was sitting back and watching the show. I got it. But this was my show to run. Yeah. So just having fun with that and just growing. And that's, that was with that, working on that album, it was twofold. It was the showing people that I belong, but then it was the having fun aspect of it. Yeah. And so I was just enjoying myself.
Damn, I see. Because at the time, I remember thinking it's a really lively album. It's a really energetic album. And I remember thinking at the time, man, this guy's getting no sleep and he's bringing this much energy. It's incredible. But obviously it was because I didn't know much about yourself and about it. So I was making my own, reasoning up.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing I was actually going to say about that, because it's fascinating, because we had evidence on, and I don't know if you heard this, but like he was saying at that time, because you were saying your confidence was low, and this was to help it build up, to someone like Evie, who was sitting there with you touring. He said that when you were signing like autograph,
the posters,
yeah. He said that some kid brought sleepers up, and Evidence didn't even know you had a solo album, and that inspired him to want to do the Weatherman and other stuff outside of Dilated Peoples. I mean, how does that feel like for someone like yourself to hear that another artist went and, oh, actually, I can do this? It must be amazing.
Man, that's amazing, man. Like, I mean, I definitely saw it, and I texted him when I saw it because I didn't know, you know what I mean? But it's an amazing feeling to know that, somebody who, has started before me, and we become, acquaintances at this point. We're friends, but at the time, like, we're touring, and they're the bigger act, and the fact that he saw something I did that he didn't know I did, And that inspired him to go want to step out and try things, you know, as a solo artist. Like, I mean, that's an amazing feeling, like to inspire somebody who been inspiring you. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, you know, props, shout out to Evidence, you know, Rocka, Babu, the whole Dilator. But that was just real big. And even finding that out later in life, like to see, like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's part of what inspired you to do what you did. And I mean, it's crazy, man. It's awesome. I love it.
I love that as well. But again, it gives that another angle to that whole confidence thing. Because if he'd have told you that, your confidence would have been even higher. You know, you'd have been like, wow. Yeah,
oh,
you know,
it would have been out of here. But I mean, you know, it definitely would have been out of here with it. But it's crazy, man. Like it's when you sit down to do things and you have your reasons for doing them, obviously. But when you sit down and do things, you don't think of all of the outside circumstances, right? You don't think of, more than likely, you don't think of how you're going to affect other people with things you're doing. And just to know that, you know, I know fans come and tell me stories of, you know, what songs or what albums mean to them. But when another artist comes and tell you how you inspired them, that is something totally different. Like that, I can't even describe what that feeling is for to people that don't do this. Like, it's just like, and it's not you inspiring somebody from a younger generation. It's you inspiring somebody from, you know, a little bit before you. That's the thing. It's like, oh, wow. Like I done got to the point where I made a mark on them. This is crazy.
Just imagine the stories you don't know, you know, the stories that are out there. Like, man, it's crazy.
Exactly.
Because your history is deep, man. And I have to say, like, this, I mean, one of the things I've always loved about you and why you and Phonte work so well together on tracks is Phonte will bring, well, Phonte, but what you know, that's just, we all know what he's good at and how he sounds and the humor and everything like that as well. What I love about yourself, especially in your solo work, is the heart, man. Like, I can tell who you are, like, without even having to read a magazine interview or anything. Like, I listen and there's like a lot of heart, a lot of insight. Tracks like Now and Live Life, those, and then your newer tracks as well. And you're also really family orientated. And as a person who has grown into that as I've got older, you know, my family's become a lot more important to me as I've got older. I just wanted to hit you up with a track that I was listening to the other day, just catching up on your discography and what I had on my like iPod Classic, and I was just like shuffling, and there's a track on there that I've got called Little Sister with Nitty Scott from like from like 2014, right? And I was thinking, why is this on my iPod? I don't remember this. And I heard it again, and man, the bars on there touch like my soul, bro. So I had to ask you, because that track I used to rinse quite a bit. How are KK, Drea and Bailey, your little sisters? Because when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, how are they?
Those actually are my nieces.
Oh, your nieces. Sorry, your nieces. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Nah, they're good. You know, I actually have another niece in the family at this point, but
okay.
Nah, they're good. You know, I try to FaceTime with my nieces, Bailey and her little sister Logan. You know, once every other week at least.
Wicked.
KK, I talk to her, like we text. That's my brother's daughter. And then Andrea, I haven't spoken to her in a while because her mom moved, like she constantly moves, and so we always end up out of contact. But I actually have two sisters, two younger sisters, and they have 4 kids between them, and 2 boys, 2 girls. And now that's important to me. Like my sister, especially my sisters, because they're younger, and you know, I'm protective, you know, but I'm also allowing them, you know, I'm not like a hoverer over them. You know what I mean? Like I allow them, because one sister I grew up with, one sister I didn't, but I just, you know, allow them to be them, you know, and just try to be a big brother that provides wisdom, that provides, you know, advice, that nurturing, and just be there, you know, listen, and whatever else I can provide, I provide. But I mean, that's important to me. Like, I don't see them as often as I should.
Yeah.
But they know at the drop of a dime, pandemic, no pandemic, no matter where I am, what I'm doing, if they call me and they need me, they got me. And that's how I roll. Cause I'm like, those are my hearts. You know what I mean? Those are my heartbeats. Yeah. No matter how frustrated they make me, how pissed off I get, with things they do. But those are my heartbeats. So, I try to make sure that I'm there and also to represent not just being a good big brother, but being a decent human and decent man so they can see that. You know what I mean? Like and that's what I try to always be.
It's important, man. Definitely.
Very important.
Is there any musical tendencies in the family at all? Is there anything going on? People making any music or anything?
Nah.
Nothing. Just you. Wow. Okay. Do you bond over any music? Do you ever listen to music together, or is there anything that you've ever thrown them or they've thrown you? I like learning from kids sometimes.
Not actually. I mean, my nephews, I have twin nephews, and one of them, he used to say when he was younger, he used to say he wanted to make music. And then when he came down to my house for a summer, I had him I got my little setup or whatever, and I was like, "Hey, you want to make some music? You want to come in and do something?" And he got nervous and he didn't want to do anything. Now he's in the sports heavy, so I don't know.
Well, that's it, man.
If the music is still touching him the same, but the crazy thing, the only person I ever bonded over music with in my family was my brother, my older brother, when he was introducing me to a lot of music. And he doesn't make music. He doesn't write, he doesn't make music. I later found out that my mom actually used to write poetry.
Oh, wow.
She told me this about 6-7 years ago. She was like, you ain't even know your mom used to write poetry. And she sent me a few of her pieces that she ever wrote when she was younger. And I was like, wow, I never knew. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something you ever told me. And I was like, okay, so I know where I get, the writing part from. And then I didn't meet my father till I was 19, but I learned he loves music.
Right.
Now, we never bonded over music, but I do know he loves music. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so I probably got my love of music from my father and my love of writing from my mother.
Wow.
And I was been piecing that together through the years. But other than that, don't even really discuss music.
Wow.
With the family. We talk about a myriad of other things, and music is definitely not one of them. My little sister, one of my sisters, one of my sisters is very protective of me. So if anybody's talking music around me, she's going to get upset because she's like, you're at home. You shouldn't have to talk about work while you're home. Yeah. And then my other little sister, she, super proud. And the listening poster, me and all the fellas, we signed a poster for her. She had it on her wall at home. And when people would come over and see the poster, they would geek out. Yeah. And so she had to take the poster out of her room, move it to another part of the house that nobody goes in, wouldn't tell people, that I was her brother, because she was like, it's been so many times I got in the car with my friends when she was in college, and she was like, Dad, put y'all music on, and be like, oh, you don't know nothing about this. And she said, I just be in the back of the car laughing. Like, y'all don't know that's my brother on there.
Oh my God, that's so mad.
Yeah, and it was so funny. Her current boyfriend, huge Little Brother fan, right?
Okay.
He didn't find out for a long time that we were brother and sister, because she was like, one of the first dates they went on, he put Little Brother on.
Oh my God.
And called himself putting her on to some music. And she was like, I was just sitting in the car like, oh my God, this is not going to work out, because you are standing over my brother. And I mean, they're still together. Yeah. And she just finally let him speak to me probably on New Year's.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I think they had been dating for a year, and she finally just let him speak to me because she was like, I didn't want him to geek out and stand out over you.
That's bad.
I didn't want to have to break up with my boyfriend because he liked you more than me.
Oh man,
and I mean, it's funny to me.
Of course, yeah.
I can see how that could be a thing. You know what I mean? No. So, So I mean, they're very protective of me and what I do. And I remember another story. I'll never forget. Me and Sean Don. I don't know why we ended up at my dad's house.
Right.
And we're there. It's my dad, my stepmom, and my sister wasn't there for some reason, right? She wasn't there, but one of her friends from the neighborhood was there.
Right.
And it's girl, college age girl. And so we're there and we're at the house and we're we just talking. And when my family, like I said, they're very protective of what I do. So they don't really talk about it when I'm home. And somehow we got on it. And now when I first came into the house and we were in there talking in the living room, this girl was way on the other side of the living room, just like looked like she's bored out of her mind. Yeah. Like, oh, this is, my sister's name is Kristen. Like, this is Chris's brother and whatever. He's boring. This is his friend. Who cares? Yeah. But she started, I seen her ears perking up when she started, my dad would ask me questions because my dad was getting a kick out of this, right? And so he's asking certain questions, and me and my friend me and Sean Don and there, we talking, and we just, I'm not thinking about the fact that this girl, if she knows who I am or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I see her on her phone, and she starts Googling
I knew it. Yeah.
as we're talking. And slowly through the night, you see her, like my father has this big couch and then a love seat, and I'm on the love seat. You see her inching slowly. And my father is cracking up. And when she leave, my father's like, oh my God, she groupied out. I never seen somebody groupied out in person. Like she just moved closer and closer and closer as she started to learn who I was. Like, oh my God. Like, and my stepmom was so pissed. She was like, oh, I hate that. This is why you're home. You shouldn't have to deal with that when you're home. And I was like, it's okay. It's all good. It's cool.
That's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So the family is very protective of, of what I do. And they always like to say, when you home, you're home. Like you shouldn't have to worry about that. I'll update them on things that's going on, but we don't stay on it for long.
I see. Because I remember there was moments in your raps from back in the day where you've talked about your brother, and I think it's on RPM where you actually have a track like "Pray" about your bro, and again, really insightful, heart, all of that I've just already said. I remember listening to that. There's a few tracks from different artists I've loved where they're so honest about how they feel. I then automatically think like, I wonder how they deal with that, like. Because obviously we switch the track and we move on. But for yourself, that's like a piece of work that your family will hear, your brother will hear it, everyone will hear it and live with it. Was there any conversations that came out of music like that when you have cited your family in your music, or are they all kind of kept quite separate?
A couple times. With my brother, as far as he go. He loves it. I'm mentioning him in songs. I'm talking about him in songs. So he's proud to say the least. Not always proud of the things he's done, but he's proud that, I still love him. I love him enough to put him in song. So he'll live on forever. And then my father, me and him, like I said, I didn't meet him till I was 19. So when he heard what was it? All for You.
All for You, yeah.
For the first time, he called me and was like, "Hey man, I heard the song and I really like it, but do we need to talk? Like, do we?" Yeah. And I was like, "Nah," because I retold the story of our first time meeting, and so for him, and I was like, "No, I was just retelling." Things I was going through the first time we talked, the first time we met. Yeah. Those aren't issues I have now or feelings I have now. Those were feelings I had then. So once I explained to him, I was writing in the past tense and not I wasn't carrying those feelings still with me. 6 years later or however long it was. That's when he was like, oh, okay, you know, I just heard the song, so I was just making sure. I was like, nah, I'm good now. Like, the story came up, and because Phonte and I both grew up in a single parent home, so that was just something we wanted to touch on. That the breakup or the split of parents is never as black and white as you believe it to be when you're young, and there's not to say who's wrong or who's right, but there's a lot more to the story than what you think it is or what you've been told when you're young. Yeah. And that was the purpose of that song.
Oh, wicked, man. Because I know there's a lot of growth in that as well, right? Just kind of understanding that. I remember the RPM when I did hear that. I don't know. There was the beats itself. I didn't know who'd done them, and I checked it was Focus who'd done those beats.
Yep.
And then I started thinking about the Compton sessions that obviously you guys, Focus has worked with Dre. I know that you were in those sessions as well. I need to ask you how, because there's a pic that you posted. How do you end up in a room, right, with Dr. Dre and DJ Premier? Like, what? First of all, how? And two, how did you even react to that situation, man?
It was crazy. So, you know, me and Focus, we've been working together for a while. And Ty Cannon, who was the A&R at the time, he was over there. And so whenever I went out to LA, they would always tell me like, yo, man, you can come through. Like, you're good to come through.
Wicked.
And I was like, okay. So I just started going over there whenever I went out there. And then Ty would always put me in position to work. So like I would just come and I would be observing, you know, fly on the wall, staying out the way. And he would always, whenever Dre be like, yo, any writers in here, whatever, because it'd be various people in there. And Ty will always push me to the front. Like, Dre, he write. So I would take my shot, and nothing I did ended up, you know, sticking, but it was just those experiences. And so that particular day, like I had been coming constantly throughout the sessions. I helped, his name was King Mez at the time. He just goes by Mez now, but I got him over there. That was like when Compton Sessions began, is when I had got him over there. But I would just come in, you know, sometimes work, sometimes not. And that particular day, when Premier came in, it was a whole host of us in there. It was me, it was Premier, of course, it was Anderson .Paak, it was Exhibit was there, DJ Illmatic was there. Like, it was a whole host of us. And and we're just in there and we're telling stories. And because Premier came to do the cuts for the Animals track. Like that was the day he was in there doing that. And we just in there, we telling stories and we hooping it up and we laughing, we having a ball and watching Dre on the tables. This is the first time I ever seen him DJing. What? Like he was in there cutting. And you know, so we just having a good time. And then they go, and it was just amazing watching Dre direct DJ Premier on what he wanted for his album. And it was mind-blowing to see a legend talking to a legend. But the same way Dre was talking to Premier is the same way I seen him, well, almost the same way I seen him talk to people you may never heard of before in the studio. And it was just like, yo, you directing a legend like that? Like, this is crazy. But I had been going for like almost a year, 2 years or whatever. I had been going over to the studio, and I never asked for a picture. Like, I never asked for a picture. And that weekend, Premier DJ'd a party, and I hosted the party. So me and Premier had been kind of running into each other that whole weekend. And so that day, Ty, he was like, yo, man, you need to go get a picture. Like, you need to get your picture. Because I had never, and Dre is always great about taking pictures with people. He typically has no problem with doing that. And so I always didn't do it because I was like, man, I'm not going to get a picture until I know I done made something on this album. But Ty was like, no, you need to get this picture. Matter of fact, you need to get one with Dre and Premier.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and so I went over to Dre, and I knew Premier would take one, but I went over to Dre. I said, Dre, do you mind if I get a picture with you and Premier? And Dre was like, oh yeah, nah, let's do it. Let's do it. Premier was like, yeah, come on, Pooh, let's do it. And Ty took the picture for me. And listen, that picture means so much to me. Like, just because, you know, a lot of times you see people, they take pictures with, you know, bigger artists, and they wasn't really with that artist. It was like they just ran into them at an event or something, and they take the picture. But this was a thing where I had been with both of them all day, watching the creation of something and being in the room, you know, being an active participant in what was going on. And I was able to take a picture with these two legends, these two goats of hip hop. Man, that picture means a lot to me. It means a lot.
It means a lot to me, mate. when I saw it, I was like, I felt that. You know, when I was like, first of all, it's Pooh, so it's obviously someone that I really admire. And then it was like the two just monumental pillars, you know, next to RZA and all these others. And fascinating, man, fascinating. I just wanted to get a bit of insight, and you've provided it. Thank you for that. There was another track on RPM I was listening back the other day, and it really, really got me going, the Cycle and Burn. And you can't say, and even though back in the day that you were saying that you were learning and you were trying to see where your kind of weak spots were, I feel that you're kind of feeling from around 2014, you've started illuminating minds, bro. Like you're now talking about knowledge that I'm like 40 now, right? So I've had to read up a lot in my life, catch up. I'm from the UK. I have lived a different life to a lot of things, and I've been very privileged in my life. So you need to school up to know, especially if you love hip hop, where it comes from, right? And the people it comes from. And when I heard the Cycle and Burn again the other day, it just reminded me of Words Paint Pictures, man. And your 2015 project, I have to say, might be one of like top 3 easily you've ever done in my eyes, right? You and Apollo Brown, brilliant artwork, amazing messaging. I just want to know how you, and it's heavy. It's a heavy project. There's a lot of heavy things you're talking about there, but I think they're necessary and you do them brilliantly. What do you think about that project you did with Apollo Brown? I think it's like 5 years ago now, something like that. Maybe even 6 now. Actually.
Yeah, six now.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about that project is that wasn't even supposed to be that.
Okay.
When I did my deal with Mellow Music at the time, I was more concerned about the project with Knox, Home Sweet Home. Like I had been working on that project. I was probably halfway done with that project when I did the deal. And so the deal, in order for me to get what I wanted, I had to, you know, give Mellow Music what they wanted. And all they wanted was an EP with the producers that they had over there, which was Apollo, Larange, and Odyssey. And I think Quelle Chris produced, so he wanted me to do something with him. And I was like, all right, whatever. Yeah, sure. Okay, cool, whatever. I just wanted to get the Home Sweet Home, the Joan Me and Knox off. So I didn't care. And so Apollo ended up sending me beats first. Now, me and Apollo had talked about doing an album a few years prior, but like nothing came of it. You know, I was off doing my thing. He was doing this thing. So he sent me beats first. And I recorded 2 songs. I ended up going to New York for Apollo and Razzkaz's album release party at SOB's. And so while we're downstairs in the green room, I play Apollo the 2 records. I say, yo, I just want to play you these records. I started. And he hears the records, and one ended up on the Mellow compilation. It's called No Future. No Future, yeah. And that was just talking about girl or whatever. I don't know what it was talking about, but then the other one was one of the tracks that ended up on Words Paint Pictures. And at that time, you know, obviously I'm seeing all the different things that's going on, and I started wanting to talk about it. And so I played on these 2 tracks, and he looked at me after. He was like, yo, I'm gonna do this whole EP. Damn. And I was like, I don't care. Like, yeah, tell Mike over at Mellow that you're gonna do the whole EP. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's done. So I was like, okay. So I ended up talking to Mello and was like, yo, I talked to Apollo. He loved what we did. He said he gonna do the whole EP. So Mello was like, okay. Like, I'm not gonna say no. And then at that moment, once he started sending me more beats, that's when I really started writing, about what was going on. It was just weighing heavily on me. So I just wanted to talk about it through my perspective, my lens. And so that's how I know Future ended up on something else, because I was like, that doesn't belong here anymore. And so, we working on the project, and I knew I wanted the artwork to be very poignant. And so I called my guy who I went to school with, longtime collaborator, Tobias Rose. He formed his own company. And I was like, listen, I need something that's going to, without seeing any words, it's going to say everything this album said. So I played what I have of the album for him. And he said, I got you. And he came back like 2 weeks later with a rough of the drawing. Like, this was like the third or fourth different version of the drawing. And every time he came back with something different, it just got better and better and better. And I said, this is going to speak exactly to what this project is. And like I said, I was just really just speaking about things I was feeling. Because the thing about me is, while who I am on record is who I am in life, is who I am in with all different facets of my life, like no matter what circle I'm in, it's still the me I want you to see, right?
Yeah.
So I don't talk about the things I may know in politics, or the things I may know in sciences, or things I may know and, just other things. But it's not that I don't know. I just don't talk about them. Yeah. So this was the first time people got to see that version of me talking about things that I talk about, with my friends and my family and whoever. This was the first time they got to really hear me talk about those things. And it took a lot of people like, you get into that too? It was like, I'm very knowledgeable about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Just because I don't openly speak about it to that of doesn't mean I don't know what's going on. So it wasn't a big departure for me. It was just the first time I took that part of my life and put it, on tracks.
Yeah.
And I think it spoke to a lot of people, especially what was going on at that time, because you had that, then you had, To Pimp a Butterfly with Kendrick.
For sure.
Where he was talking about a lot of those things. D'Angelo and the Vanguard came out with their, so you had music that was, starting to talk about a lot of these things. And that was just one of the pieces of music that was in that group.
Amazing. Because when I do listen to stuff like those albums you said, I mean, it's awful that it's hitting home. That artwork could be 2020's artwork. It could be
for sure
today's artwork. But there's like augmentation alone. Like, for people who may not have heard the project or whatever, go check that out. It's crucial. I feel like you're talking there. I'm listening to this track. You're citing stuff like the history of Black America, COINTELPRO, stuff like that, where I was like, it's like Immortal Technique right now. This is like, I'm hearing Pooh in a different light, but it's you. You're not doing someone else. You're not doing an impression. This is how you really feel. And then I watched Jesus and the Black Messiah the other day. Have you seen the film?
Yes. I saw it last week.
Oh, did you? What did you think? What did you think to the film?
I loved it. I mean, I knew, the story. I was familiar with the story, but just seeing it, I thought it was a brilliant film. I thought that, the actors, they acted their asses off in that film.
Yeah.
And it just goes to, you really see how no matter, it's one of them things like, all the odds are stacked against Black people. Right. Originally we didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean? But, all the odds are stacked against us, and we still prevail constantly. And you have the United States government, looking to suppress, a group of people. And the thing about it is, And I tell people all the time, like, it's little things that you have to pay attention to, right? So what I started realizing years ago, when I was younger was, same thing with MLK, is that, obviously they don't, the marching for equal rights and the things of that nature. They're like, yeah, whatever, we can put up with that. But the problem comes when these people, these figures start opening up the eyes of the poor, right? The less thans, the less fortunates. And the greatest trick the wealthy has pulled on the people, and I'm speaking of white people in the US specifically, because I can't really speak for anywhere else, but here is it has told the poor white man and woman, the reason why you're poor is not because of us, the wealthy. It's because of somebody else who's poor. Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a meme. It's a meme I saw where it's a white man in a suit sitting with a plate full of cookies, right?
Yeah.
At a table. And then on one side of him is a black man with one cookie. And then on the other side of him is a white man with no cookies, right?
Yeah.
And the white man, the rich white man's looking at the poor white man, was like, he has your cookie. And it's like, dude, you're sitting there with a plate full of cookies. But that is the perfect meme for what's been happening. But I said all that to say, so for Fred Hampton Jr., or Martin Luther King Jr., like, it wasn't until they started really uniting different races of people is saying, listen, it's not a black or white thing. It's a rich or poor thing. This is economics we're talking about. And that was the real issue. You know what I mean? That was the real, like, okay, we gotta silence them. We can't have them out here telling what we really doing to people.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. So that's the part that I think a lot of people constantly miss here. It's like, yes, black people want equal rights, but poor people want equality as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's that thing. Because here in America, which I'm assuming they do it everywhere, people vote against their best interests all the time. They vote against their best interests all the time. And economics is one of those things where people typically vote against their best interests because they're not looking under, the things that's being said. They're not looking past the first page of the book. Like, this is about economics. This is about wealth, and this is about classism. Yeah. This isn't about, racism is a product of classism. Yeah. That's what it is. Like, and so, that those are the things that always interest me in these pieces, especially when you have an idea of what they are. And I think I think it was highlighted enough in the movie, but it did touch on it. And I'm glad it did touch on it because I think that's important for people to see.
Yeah, man, 100%. Yeah, exactly. I think with that exact same thinking, just on a personal level, I mean, tracks like Eyes Wide Open, stuff like that. It feels like there's a lot. You're carrying a load there, and obviously it's come to a real high point in 2020 with people who aren't working, who are out of work, who aren't going to school because of the pandemic, and then obviously George Floyd and the mass protests. As a person yourself, how are you kind of navigating through all that, man? This massive sea change, or what seems to have been change at the time. I'm not sure if it's led to actual concrete change yet, but how are you managing? How are you coping with that? Do you kind of switch off from it sometimes, or are you?
You got to switch off. Yeah. You got to turn it off. I've noticed even with myself, I'm not on the internet as much. Or social media, I'll say. I'm always on the internet, but I'm not on social media as much. Yeah. You got to turn it off. You got to give your mental a rest, a break. The fatigue sets in. Desensitization desensitization. I can't even say the word.
Yeah. Desensitized.
You know,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So all these different things set in, and you have to give yourself a refresh. And, you know, everybody is different. You know, you determine how long you need to refresh, but it's needed. It's important. And so what I started doing is I was cooking heavy at the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
For the first probably 2 months, it was about, you know, getting my house and getting me and my wife prepared for what was happening. Because, you know, we didn't know all what was going to happen. So, you know, I'm gathering, you know, making sure we have food, we have water, we have, you know, protection, we have, you know, all the different things that we need in the home. So that was the first couple of months. And then the next couple of months, it was chilling. It was like, well, I got a break. You know, I had been going hard for like, you know, 2 years straight at that point, between all the things that was happening with little brother and then things that I have going on outside of little brother. So it was like, I got a little vacation. But then it started like, we in this for a while. Yeah. So then it turns to, I got on the kick of riding a bike through the city, and I was out either walking or riding my bike. So I got on that. Then that phase passed. And then that's when, you know, a bit of depression starts setting in. And it's like, we really in the house. Like, this is crazy. And then you try to come up out of it. And, you know, I had other creative things working on artist I managed, Loot, his project. So working on his debut album. So that kind of started to bring me out of it. And then you fall back into that depression. And then, these are things that's happening that has nothing to do with, you know, what else is going on in the world. This is just my shit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So just going through my own shit, like I couldn't take on all of that weight. Not that you don't know what's going on, not that you are being blind to what's going on, but just understanding I need a break for me. Because if I don't take a break, like, people depend on me. Yeah. So if I don't make sure I'm good, how can they be good? Exactly. And so just trying to find different things. I probably watched more shows and movies that I probably would have never gave the time of day, but I had the time. Sports coming back was big for me because that gave me an escape. Yeah. Sometime like it gave me an escape from what was going on. So that was big for me. Yeah. And just, you know, spending more time talking to family members, and, you know, just doing different things because you got to have that escape. You know what I mean? Like I say, you can't, it's so much going on. It's, you know, between, you know, the social unrest last year, the pandemic, the presidential election, like all those different things just going on. It's just like, this is a lot. It's this powder keg after powder keg after powder keg after powder keg. And, you know, who can sit in the middle of that for only but so long before they, you know, they break down themselves. So it was definitely needed. It was very important. I mean, even as we move forward, that you protect your energy, you protect your spirit, you protect your mental, and you gotta unplug every once in a while.
100%. And for me, it has been the music as well, bro. So thank you for bringing. I see it on there on your wall, man. May the Lord watch. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you.
Brilliant project from you guys that you came back. I just wanted to touch on it quickly. You said there about the sports, because remember at the time, I think it's Black Magic, where you say something about all you need is a sports lounge and a glass of red.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, do you know what? Right now that feels like heaven. You know, like in this pandemic, sometimes you want to watch a match where we are, or you've got a game on or whatever. I had to ask you though, because I know you're a big sports fan. You like your basketball as well. I was going to say, how are you into your soccer? Or football, as we call it. Are you into it at all?
No.
Come on, Pooh.
The only thing I would do, I would watch, like, of course, when the World Cup come around, everybody watches, right? Even if you don't know what's going on. And so I will watch a little bit, but I'm really not. I have friends who are diehard. Like, like I can break down basketball or American football. They can break down soccer, right?
Right.
I can't. You know, I just can't. Like now. but I'm also the same person that I would go to a match. Like I will go see anything live.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really watch a lot of hockey, but I've been to plenty hockey games. I will go watch anything live. Probably I will go watch a handball tournament live. Right? Like, I just love sports that much. Now, will I sit and watch it on television? No, but I'll go watch it live. But that's just one of them sports where I know I understand the passion.
Yeah.
I just don't really understand the game. Like, I mean, I understand the basics of it, right? Get the ball through the net. Like, that's the basics, right?
That's essentially it, yeah.
Yeah, I understand, but I know it's so much more involved in that, but that's not a sport I really, and I think it's one of because I wasn't introduced to it young.
For sure.
So it hasn't, I haven't grown up on it. Like, I'm just very knowledgeable of the sports I've grown up on: baseball, football, basketball. Well, not even that much on baseball, but football and basketball. But it's like I said, it's something I'll go watch it live any day. Man. Like, but I don't want to watch it in the States. I want to go. I think the first time I thought about it, we were somewhere in Spain. I don't know if it was Barcelona or Madrid, and we seen one of the big stadiums. Like, it was humongous, and I was like, I want to go watch a soccer match.
You need to, man. You need to. I've been to those and they are incredible. Like, it's a level, bro. But when this is all dies down and you're ever in England, we're going to go to a match, man. We've got to take you to a match.
It's happening. It's so happening. Because that was on my bucket list last year, was to go to a match in any other country, right? Yeah. That was one of the things that was on my list last year, and obviously didn't get to make it happen, but it's still on there. Keep
it on the bucket list, man. I wanted to touch on May the Lord Watch. To be fair, all the Little Brother stuff, but I know you talk about it to death in all your interviews, so I don't want to hammer you with the same questions, but really just from the heart, I just wanted to kind of know where you and Phonte are at right now. Are you still creatively in that space, or have you kind of moved now? You're happy with May the Lord Watch? Where are you guys at the moment?
I mean, we're good, man. I mean, creatively, we're still doing things together. We're still working. We're still, kind of figuring out what the new version of Little Brother is, and not as far as group members. I mean, we're a duo now. That's set in stone. But just kind of what we're gonna do next, because a lot of people feel like it's only Little Brother if y'all are making albums. And it's like, nah, like, it's other stuff we do, or can do, that doesn't necessarily have to be a Little Brother album. Yeah. And so, people will see soon, I don't want to jump the gun, but it's different things we've been working on together. And people will see, like, the Little Brother touch is definitely going to be, touching people very soon. Good. But Phonte is probably somebody I talk to at this point. I mean, it was every day, then it was every other day, but like, it's still now we talk on the phone at least a couple times a week, and these are marathon sessions. Like, these aren't get on the phone for 10 minutes. Like, there's no such thing as Phonte and I getting on the phone for 10 minutes. Yeah. A short conversation is an hour, right? Wow. So just trying to work through different things that we're trying to do. But we're constantly in communication, constantly figuring different things out. And we have a lot of things in store. Because one of the things we definitely understood was, as long as we're under these pandemic circumstances, we didn't want to do another Little Brother album, because we recorded Made a Little Watch together. Like, we wrote and recorded everything together. And obviously we can't do that at this time. And then putting out a Little Brother album and not being able to properly promote it. Yeah. I mean, shit, we didn't even get to finish touring for Made a Little Watch. So that's not something we wanted to do. So, but we, as far as us working on music, we do have some other features coming out that we've done. And soon as I get Loot album turned in, I'm going to start working on my solo project, and Phonte is going to executive produce that. So this will be the first time that he's actually actively participated in the making of one of my albums. Like, this will be the first time. He he kind of, whenever I went to go into my own album mode, he would just let me do my thing. Like he didn't get involved. And I kind of didn't want him involved because I wanted to show people what I was able to do on my own. But at this point, in this stage in our careers, I'm just like, dude, I just want to make the best product possible. I want to work, I want us to continue working together. And so he's going to executive produce the project. And that's kind of what we got, that I can tell y'all. That's kind of what we got coming up.
My heart is full right now, Pooh. Like, as in, to see a journey, the journey you guys have been on. I've been there, man. I'm listening, hearing the interviews when you guys split, hearing all these rumors, wild rumors, and to get to this point where I hear you guys are talking on the phone loads, you're willing, like, you're ready to make stuff. It's just very inspirational to me, like, just as a person, just be like, life isn't short. Like life is very fragile, especially in today's world. But, like, there's chapters to this shit, man. And, like, who knows what the next few chapters are going to be. So, yeah, man, I'm very excited for that. Yeah, definitely, man. I know I've taken up a lot of your time at the moment, mate, so I'm just going to wrap
it's all good, man. You good. Yeah, it's a good one, man. Like, I tell people all the time, when you get into them, when you have interviews where they're just asking the standard questions, then it's like, I can't wait for this shit to be over. But when you have, this type of interview, this type of conversation, I don't even know how long we've been on, but it doesn't even matter. Like,
that's cool, man.
It's just like me being on the phone with one of my friends at this point.
Oh man, that means a lot. That means a lot. But also, I am glad because I know you guys do a lot of press as well, and it's one of the things where you hear the stories, but sometimes it's just things like, who are you now? Like, everyone changes in their life. I was going to actually ask as well about Black Milk. Because of the purple tape. That was just one thing I wanted to ask. And I know he appeared on a few credits here and there with you at the moment. A lot of people are doing collabs, like Freddie Gibbs and Madlib or Alchemist with other people. Is there anything you kind of want to do? Is there, like, have you got a bucket list at all where you're like, I really want to work with that person or this person on a project? Is there anything like that for you?
I have different producers I definitely want to work with. Before I put the pen down, I definitely have that. I don't really have a one project bucket list. Like, a one producer bucket list. That just kind of happens organically. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely have people that are on my list that I haven't been able to scratch off yet. That I plan on scratching off very soon. So, DJ Premier. I'd say this to him every time I see him, like, dude, we still don't have a song together.
Yeah,
like,
you got it, man. Yeah.
So want to get something with him. Want to get something with Battlecat. Like, I'm a huge Battlecat fan. And I had the pleasure of meeting Battlecat in 2020. Yeah, I talked to him in 2019, but I met him in 2020. So I want to do something with Battlecat. DJ Quik, like, I met him a few times, but I love DJ Quik. Yeah. And Pharrell. Always wanted to do something for the Neptunes. Always wanted to do something with them. And I'll have, not my whole bucket list, but I'll have a good deal on my bucket list scratched off. I got to work with Knots. I got to work with Pete Rock. I got to work with Dr. Dre. I got to, I've been constantly able to, get a few things accomplished, but it's still a few more on my list though.
Wicked. Because the Black Milk purple tape thing, what was that then? How did that even come about? Because I remember at the time it was Prince, right? So I think Prince was like the crux of it. How did that even start for you guys?
Well, the crazy thing is, ironically, the last shows Little Brother did in Europe, I was coming home. I had an extra show. I stayed and did a show in Copenhagen. Nice. And I was coming home and I was talking with Doe and I was like, yeah, man, I want to do something. I think I just want to do like a mixtape. I just want to do something, something that's going to be quick for me, not labor intensive like an album. And so I was just trying to talk through the idea. And so I was coming home thinking about it. And I was playing, I can't remember what he called it, but Black Milk did all those beats were part of a beat tape he did. Oh. And I was just coming home and I was just listening. And I started writing to one of them. So when I got home, I reached out to Black Milk and I was like, yo, man, I know you put these instrumentals out. I want to try to make a mixtape out of it. And he was like, cool, just let me hear it before you put it out. I said, oh, for sure. Like, that's why I called Nas, because people were taking the beats and just doing what they wanted to do with them. But I knew I could reach out to them, so I didn't want to do it that way. So I ended up doing it, coming home, recording it, sent it to him. He said, yo, I like it. Like, he told me what his favorite joints were. And I was like, cool. So it was be good to go. And then I just let it fly. And
wow.
That was one of the things. I think every now and again, you need something that you can go into and not have to put that much thought into. But it still feels original.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things. I said, I had a lot of fun. I brought in, Josie, Sean Don, Joe Scudder. Like, I was just bringing in different people. Like, we were all working together at that time on the Reservoir Dogs mixtape. So I just was bringing them in, just doing different things, just having fun, man, just being loose and not putting, too much thought into things. And that's how the Purple Tape came about.
Damn. Okay. Because I remember that, because Black Milk was another one that I remember at that time. Sound Alarm, all this stuff that was dropping.
Yep.
Detroit was heavy back then as well, like Elzai, Dilla as well, and it's just crazy. And so it just one of them things where I was like, what? Pooh's got something with Black Milk, amazing. So I love that, man. I was actually going to ask you, you talked about it a minute ago about your management career, and that was another thing where I wanted to ask you, what drove you to go into management? Because I can't imagine it being that easy,
No, it's not. I remember, what was it? It was probably about 2010 or so, 2011 maybe. And Doe told me, he was like, yo, man, I think when you're ready to not have making music at the forefront of your career, I think you would be a great manager. Like, I see some qualities in you. I think you'll be great at it. Because at the time, a lot of younger guys were hitting me up for advice, mentorship, whatever have it. And so I was like, maybe, I don't know. I was still focused on trying, to get my rep up as a rapper. Like, I wanted people to respect me on my own. And so as time went on, I really started noticing a lot of young guys, hitting me up. And not just for features. It was, to ask me questions, to, for guidance or mentorship, whatever. And so the first thing I did was, that's when I helped King Mez get over there with Dre. Like, I talked to the A&R, was sending music and doing different things to get him over there. And he got over there. And, once he got over there, blew it out the water. Obviously, he wrote on 13 of the 16 tracks on Compton, and Dre eventually signed him. And so, that was the first thing. And, the situation with me and him didn't work out exactly how I wanted it, with me ended up managing him. But I had been, in 2012, I had been introduced to another guy here through my man, the mighty DJ DR, when we was working on our project together, by Luke. And he introduced me to Luke in 2012, to his music, and then to him. And all I had wanted to do for Luke, he had management at the time, all I wanted to do was help him work on the project. Like, I heard the voice, I heard his skill, and I felt he had a lot of potential. And so it never ended up working out with me and his former management with our arrangement. But I put him on different records, and I was still helping him through different things that he was going through musically. And once he got out of the situation with the other management, that's when me and him hooked up, and I started managing him. And then I picked up Black Soul, a singer-songwriter out of Tacoma, Washington. And then I picked up another young guy, T. Smith, out of Selma, Alabama. And it was just one of them things where I like working with people who I will work with regardless of if I was managing or not. Like, that was my thing. Like, I wanted to work with people I truly believed in, not just, oh, this is a money grab, or, oh, this is a slam dunk. Like, I wanted to work with people I truly believed in their craft and who they were. And it's not easy, right? Like, it's like going from playing to coaching, where when you're playing, you can affect the game by doing something in the game. As a coach, all you can do is alert the player to what you see and how you think they can correct it or how you think they can overcome it. And it's the same with manager. Like, at the end of the day, it's on the artist to, take the advice and process it and then go out and execute, right? So it's tough in that regard, but it's also beauty because I've been able to assume more of an A&R role as opposed to a management role with my guys. And really, so like with Loot album, I helped, not necessarily get beats for him because he was good at, he got what he wanted, but help elevating what he had, help, complete the vision of what he wanted his debut album to be. Help with, bringing in different musicians or, features or whatever. So just being able to help from that side, it showed me what I really want to do with my future. Like, management ain't the thing for me. A&R is the thing for me. Like, I like working on albums. I like doing the administration part of working on albums. Like, I love that part of it. And so getting into management helped me find what I believe my path truly is. And that's more A&R managing. Because with managing, it's holistic. You got to worry about the whole person, right? Not just the music part of it. And I just want to focus on the music part of it. Like, that's the part that really excites me, that really gets me pumped. And it's being able to come in and be creative in different ways. Just learning how to apply the skill set I use for myself to others. And that's been the thing. And I thank Luke and Black Soul and T Smith all the time. They thank me and I be thanking them like, no, I thank y'all for trusting me, with what y'all trusted me with, because you didn't have to. And, so it's been beautiful, man. I definitely learned a lot. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, it can be a lot at times, but that's anything can be a lot of times.
Of course, man. It's weird because as an A&R, the world we grew up in musically, yourself as an artist, but also as a listener, like the 90s was completely different. And then when Big Brother came out, it was very different. And how you guys came out, very DIY, that spirit. And today I'm hearing like the guy who owns Spotify or who reps Spotify saying artists now have to drop 2, 3, 4 albums a year to keep up. Or I'm reading articles where they're saying people are putting like the hooks or the catchy bit of the song in the first 30 seconds, otherwise someone's going to skip it. For yourself as an A&R, what are the big obstacles for you guys now in today's kind of world, in today's music landscape?
For me, the first thing I always tell guys is you got to figure out who you want to be, right? You got to figure out if you in this for the art or you in this for the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Like, which one are you here for? And neither answer is wrong. It's just about plotting your course. So if you're in this for the art, you're not worried about all that stuff that, guy from Spotify talking about.
Yeah.
Right? You just going in there creating art, and who gravitates to it. And it may take a while for it to build momentum. It may never build momentum, but it's art. You know what I mean? Like, you're working on art. Because the thing for me has always been this: art can become algorithm. Algorithm can't become art.
Yeah.
And so if your thing is about algorithm, then yes, it's a formula you need to follow. You need to have the catchy part in the hook. You need to have, two projects a year. You need to have this. You need to have that. If it's about algorithm, and that's okay too. If that's the plot, the course you want to plot. I'm an art person. Personally, you know what I mean? Like, I create art and I let it go where it's going to go. And so that, for me, that's the biggest thing for me, is just being as an artist, you have to be honest with yourself about what you want out of this and what you're here for. Yeah. And once you're honest with yourself and decide what it is you're here for and what you want out of this, then we can plot your course accordingly. But you can't tell me I'm in it for the art, but all you worry about is algorithm shit.
Yeah.
Like, those two don't mesh for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's the thing for me, man. Like, I'm cool with either way. You know, I'm cool, because as an artist or as a person, you want what you want. Like, what you may want may not necessarily be what I want for me. And that's fine. You know what I mean? So if an artist is honest with themselves about what they want and what they're here for, then we can do a whole bunch of things. I can go either way, man. I'm not, I think a lot of people get it confused. They think, oh, because you make this type of music, that's all you know. No. That's what I like and prefer. Yeah. That's not all I know.
Yeah.
I also know when music is good and when it isn't. Like, just because you done caught a wave and you're joining the rock, don't mean the music is good. You know what I mean? That just means it's something there that was worthy of it going viral or doing stupid numbers or whatever. And so that's for me. Like, I always get agitated when people say that about, like, oh man, you do the little boom bap underground. You don't know. It's like, fuck you mean I don't know? Like, I know music. Like, I understand what's going on here. Like, I listen to some of these young guys. Like, I love Little Baby. You know what I mean? I listen to Little Baby records. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's not a thing of necessarily what I do. It's just having knowledge of what's going on, and I have knowledge of what's going on. So, it's for me, it's not a big deal, man. But I do believe in development. I think that's the biggest thing that's missing today is development, where, you have these guys that come out and they got a record that blow up and do fantastic, but they can't follow it up because what they did the first time was a fluke. Like, they just went in and created something and they can't bounce back because they don't have a foundation. Yeah. It's just like, I was just messing around and pulled this beat off of YouTube and made this song and that shit went crazy and I don't know where to go from here. Yeah. Because they haven't been developed. So that's my thing. I just believe in development. And I think that's the biggest thing that's missing today, because it's all about charts and numbers and social media and algorithms and shit like that. So there's no real development going on. And that's why you see a lot of guys come in and then they flushed out by the next year and it's a whole new set of guys coming in. Yeah. And whereas in the 90s and before, an artist developed over time. You have your phenoms like a Nas who come out as a teenager and he's still here, all these years later. But you had more legacy artists before because they were being properly developed. They had a foundation, and the development continues throughout their career. Whereas now there's no development, there's no true foundation, and we have a new wave of 100 artists every year. Yeah, and that's because when you have no foundation on your house, it easily blows down. Yeah, like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like the industry, it's like as a kid, listening to people like Wu and hearing Who's Your A&R, a mountain climber with an electric guitar. I remember that time, I didn't know what A&R really was, and I was like, who are these guys? And I thought industry and culture, I suppose, or music are two different things. I was like, this music's for the culture and this music's for the industry. But then when I look back at the 90s, I realised people like, Matty C and people like that who were very integral. They were A&Rs who were very integral to the development of people like All the Loud Records and people like that, So I feel there's whoever's under your guidance is lucky, man. It's a good place to be, because I feel what you've said there is something I definitely kind of gravitate to if I was making music. So big up, man. Big up. I appreciate you out there. I appreciate you out there guiding artists. But Pooh, again, your time has been very, very valuable, so I appreciate you coming on. Man, I wanted to ask you there, before you do chip off and go, what I ask everyone else, what is the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, but just the last piece where you're like, oh, wow, that's great.
Shit.
You can go through your app if you need to, if you have something there. But
nah, the crazy thing is I haven't even really been listening to a lot of music.
okay.
Shit, that's a good question. Damn. What have I been listening to? Damn.
It's nice to know people switch off though.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like I'm sitting here thinking, like, because when I get in the car, I'm just listening to mixes or I listen to a lot of sports radio talk.
I was going to say, yeah.
Sports
podcasts, sports radio, yeah.
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of music, but I'm trying to think the last thing I really dug into and rode to. Shit. What was I listening to when I drove to Greensboro? I think it probably was some EPMD.
Oh, maybe. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, the thing for me, before I get into album mode, or when I'm about to get into album mode, I listen to, like, the same group of albums over and over and over again. That's, I know exactly what it was. The last thing I really listened to from front to back was Ice Cube's Death Certificate.
Bro.
Yeah, that was
what an album.
I had to think about, because it was, I listened to that, I listened to some mixes, and then I listened to Outkast, AT-Aliens. And Equipment. Like those, before I get into album mode, when I think I'm gearing up for album mode, I was a little premature this time, but when I'm gearing up for album mode, I go through EPMD albums, Outkast albums, Ice Cube albums. Like those are the, I constantly run through those pieces of work, and it's more of it's like going through and picking apart what made those albums great. Little nuances that, a lot of people don't take the time to think about or really digest. And that's what I try to do, like writing techniques, how they was telling stories, production ideas, like just different things. And I tend to go through those albums. And yeah, Death Certificate was one that I probably play that at least once a month. But Death Certificate was definitely an album I was going through.
Oh man, that we're actually doing a series at the moment. Actually, we're wrapping it up soon, but we're like doing an episode where we talk about greatest 3 album runs in the 90s, and
Ice Cube.
Yeah, Cube is in there without the Kill It Will EP for me. I feel it goes America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, Predator. I feel Predator. Those 3.
That's me. Yep.
Pooh, I'm enjoying that. If you ever want to bring any of those albums on and we just talk about those albums for an hour, come back on, man. I'd love to do that.
For sure. The crazy thing, I was on Instagram. I go through an archive, like post sometimes, like if it was like an advertisement or flyer for a show. So I go through and try to clean it up. And I was going through it last night, and I came across a post I put up. I tweeted it first, but I was like, nobody in hip hop has had the first 3 album run like Ice Cube. And I named America's Most, Death Certificate, The Predator, and then I put Killer Will in parentheses, and I was like, nobody has had a 3 album run like this ever in hip hop. Debate your mama in there. Like you're not gonna change my mind. Like nobody has had this 3 album run.
It's unreal.
And it reminded me that I was like, yeah, bro, like that was special.
Yeah.
Like that was very, very special. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again.
Well, if you're into your podcast, bro, we have done the Ice Cube one. We had an hour, we sat down, we talked about it. Man, I just love those 3 albums and Kill It Will. So yes, thank you, bro. That's made me love you even more. Brilliant.
Thank
Pooh, thank you, man. Anytime, again, if you ever want to jump on. If there's anything you want to help promote, just let us know, get in touch, and we're always here to help. I know working artists, it's hard, man. It's a hard gig, so yeah, man, I know.
for sure. And I got you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you,
man. But yeah, much love to the family, and thank you for your time, bro. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Hope you have a good one. Have a good week.
You too, man. You too. Peace out, bro. Much love.
Peace.